Let me introduce myself. My name is Adrian, and I've always been the kind of person who believes in fairness, hard work, and integrity. Some might call me naive for holding on to those ideals so tightly in a world that often rewards cunning over kindness. But here's the thing, I don't regret it. Not yet, anyway. What I do regret, what keeps me awake at night, is how blind I was to the people around me. The ones who didn't share my values. The ones who saw my trust as weakness. I worked at Sterling and Company, one of the most prestigious financial firms in the city. It wasn't just any job, it was my dream. For years, I climbed the ladder, earning every promotion through sheer determination and late nights spent poring over spreadsheets. By the time I was 32, I had made it to the internal audit team, a position that came with respect, responsibility, and power, or so I thought. The day everything changed started like any other. I walked into the office wearing my favorite navy blue blazer, feeling confident after wrapping up a major project. We were preparing for an external review, something that happens once every 3 years. It's stressful, but also exciting because it gives us a chance to showcase our diligence and precision. I loved being part of the team that ensured Sterling maintained its reputation as untouchable. Little did I know, the very reputation would soon become a weapon turned against me. Our CFO, Mr. Grayson Hart, was a man everyone admired, or at least pretended to admire. He exuded charm, dressed impeccably, and spoke with authority. People hung on his every word during meetings, nodding along like disciples. To me, he seemed more like a figurehead than someone truly invested in the company's operations. Still, I respected him, or tried to, from afar. After all, he held immense power over our careers. That morning, Grayson called an impromptu meeting with the audit team. His tone was casual, almost friendly, which should have tipped me off right away. When he asked if we could spare a moment in his office, I nodded without hesitation. As we filed in, I noticed the way his eyes flickered over each of us, assessing, calculating. Something about it made my stomach churn, though I couldn't put my finger on why. Once we were seated, Grayson leaned back in his leather chair, steepling his fingers. "As you know," he began, his voice smooth as silk, "we're approaching a critical juncture with the external review. This is our opportunity to prove ourselves not just as individuals, but as a cohesive unit." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "However, there are certain inefficiencies within the team that need addressing." My heart skipped a beat. Inefficiencies? Was he talking about me? About us? Before I could dwell on it too long, he dropped the bombshell. "Adrian," he said, his gaze locking onto mine, "effective immediately, you're being reassigned from the audit team." The room fell silent. I felt the blood drain from my face, my hands gripping the armrests of my chair. "Reassigned?" I echoed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why?" Grayson's expression remained calm, almost apologetic. "It's nothing personal," he assured me, "but given the scope of this review, I believe it's best to bring in fresh perspectives. You've done excellent work, Adrian, but sometimes change is necessary for growth." Change, growth. Those words sounded hollow coming from him. I wanted to argue, to demand an explanation, but the weight of his authority pressed down on me. Instead, I nodded stiffly, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "Of course," I managed to say, "if that's what's best for the company." As I left his office, my mind raced. Fresh perspectives? That was code for sidelining someone they deemed expendable. And why me? I had consistently delivered results, earned accolades, and built strong relationships with my colleagues. None of it added up. Over the next few days, I replayed the conversation in my head, searching for answers. Then it hit me. Grayson hadn't acted alone. Someone must have influenced his decision. Someone who stood to gain from my removal. But who? It didn't take long to piece together the puzzle. A junior analyst named Chloe had been angling for a spot on the audit team for months. She was ambitious, yes, but also ruthless. Rumor had it she wasn't above throwing others under the bus to get ahead. Could she have whispered something in Grayson's ear? Suggested I was holding the team back? The idea sickened me, but deep down I knew it was plausible. What hurt the most wasn't the betrayal. It was the realization that I'd underestimated the toxicity lurking beneath Sterling's polished surface. I'd naively believed that talent and dedication would shield me from politics. How wrong I'd been. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my new role, determined to prove Grayson wrong. But no matter how hard I worked, the sting of rejection lingered. Worse still, I couldn't shake the image of Chloe smirking behind her desk, basking in her victory. Every time I passed her in the hallway, she avoided eye contact, feigning innocence. It only fueled my resolve. And then, one fateful afternoon, I stumbled upon something that would change everything. While organizing files in the shared drive, I noticed a folder marked Confidential, GH. Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked it open. Inside were documents detailing suspicious transactions involving Grayson himself. Transactions that hinted at embezzlement. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Surely, Grayson wouldn't risk his career or the company's future for personal gain. But as I dug deeper, the evidence became undeniable. He had been siphoning funds into offshore accounts for years, covering his tracks with forged invoices and falsified reports. And now, thanks to his arrogance, I had proof. A slow, dangerous smile spread across my face as the pieces fell into place. Grayson had underestimated me. He thought removing me from the audit team would silence me, but instead he'd handed me the ammunition I needed to fight back. Revenge wasn't something I sought lightly, but in that moment, I realized it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about justice for Sterling, for my colleagues, and for anyone else he'd wronged along the way. But revenge is a delicate game, one that requires patience and strategy. I couldn't act impulsively. Doing so would only play into Grayson's hands. No, I needed allies, people who could help me expose the truth without tipping him off. And I knew exactly where to start. Days turned into weeks as I carefully laid the groundwork for my plan. First, I reached out to Marcus, a senior accountant who had always struck me as trustworthy. Though we weren't particularly close, I sensed he shared my disdain for corporate corruption. Over coffee, I broached the subject cautiously, hinting at discrepancies I'd uncovered without revealing too much. To my relief, Marcus listened intently, his brow furrowing with concern. "I've noticed some irregularities myself," he admitted, lowering his voice. "But I never had concrete evidence. If what you're saying is true—" "It is," I interrupted, leaning forward. "And I need your help to gather more. Together, we can bring him down." Marcus hesitated, weighing the risks. Finally, he nodded. "All right, but we have to be careful. One misstep, and Grayson will crush us." With Marcus on board, I turned my attention to Chloe. Winning her cooperation wouldn't be easy. She already viewed me as a rival. But desperation could work in my favor. Late one evening, I cornered her in the break room, catching her off guard. "We need to talk," I said, closing the door behind me. Chloe crossed her arms defensively. "About what?" "About Grayson," I replied, watching her reaction closely. Her eyes widened slightly, betraying her unease. "You helped him push me out of the audit team, didn't you?" She opened her mouth to deny it, but I cut her off. "Save it. I'm not here to accuse you. I'm here because we both have a problem, and it's bigger than either of us." "What are you talking about?" she demanded, though her voice wavered. I pulled out a printed copy of one of the incriminating documents and slid it across the table. Chloe scanned it quickly, her face paling. This can't be real." "Oh, it's real," I assured her. "And unless we act, Grayson will destroy us both when he's done using us." For a moment, she looked torn between fear and defiance. Then, slowly, she nodded. "What do you want me to do?" With Chloe reluctantly aligned, our trio began working in secret. Each of us played a role. Marcus handled data analysis. Chloe monitored Grayson's movements, and I coordinated our efforts while gathering additional evidence. It was risky. Every email, every document carried the potential to expose us, but the stakes were too high to turn back now. As the investigation progressed, I found myself marveling at the irony of the situation. Grayson had removed me from the audit team to protect himself, yet in doing so, he'd inadvertently placed me in the perfect position to uncover his crimes. Karma, I decided, had a wicked sense of humor. Still, guilt gnawed at me. Was I becoming the very thing I despised, a manipulator, a schemer? At night, I wrestled with doubts, questioning whether revenge was worth sacrificing my principles. Yet whenever I considered backing out, I remembered the look on Grayson's face the day he dismissed me. The condescension, the dismissal. No, I told myself. Justice isn't revenge. It's balance. One evening, As I reviewed the latest batch of documents, I discovered something unexpected. Another name tied to the fraudulent transactions. Someone higher up in the company hierarchy. Someone whose involvement complicated matters exponentially. My pulse quickened as I stared at the screen, realizing the scope of the conspiracy extended far beyond Grayson. This revelation forced me to reconsider our strategy. Exposing Grayson alone wouldn't be enough. We needed to dismantle the entire network. But how? And at what cost? Despite these challenges, I refused to give up. With each passing day, I grew more determined, more focused. Grayson had underestimated me once. He wouldn't make that mistake again. Little did he know his downfall was already in motion. The discovery of the higher-ups' involvement sent a chill down my spine, but it also lit a fire within me. If anything, this new layer of corruption only strengthened my resolve. Grayson wasn't just a lone wolf operating in the shadows. He was part of something bigger, a web of deceit that reached further than I'd ever imagined. And now, thanks to my accidental stumble into his world of lies, I had the power to unravel it all. I called an emergency meeting with Marcus and Chloe late one evening, choosing a quiet cafe far from Sterling's prying eyes. The air between us was tense as we huddled over coffee cups and hastily scrawled notes. When I showed them the document implicating the senior executive, let's call him Mr. Caldwell, their expressions shifted from shock to disbelief and finally to grim determination. "This changes everything," Marcus muttered, rubbing his temples. "If Caldwell's involved, then exposing Grayson won't be enough. We're going up against someone who has even more influence. And resources," Chloe added, her voice barely above a whisper. For once, she didn't sound smug or calculating, just scared. "If they find out what we're doing—" "They won't," I interrupted firmly, though my stomach churned at the thought. "Not if we play this smart. But you're right, we need to expand our approach. Taking down Grayson alone won't cut it anymore. We have to expose the whole operation." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his sharp mind already working through the implications. "We'll need more evidence. Something undeniable. Something that ties both Grayson and Caldwell to these transactions beyond any shadow of a doubt." "Agreed," I said, nodding. "But we also need leverage. A way to protect ourselves when this blows up. If we go public without covering our bases, they'll crush us before we can blink." Chloe frowned, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "What kind of leverage?" "That's where you come in," I replied, turning to her. "You've been cozying up to Grayson since you joined the audit team, haven't you? Use that. Get close enough to learn his weaknesses, his fears, anything we can use to keep him, and by extension Caldwell, from retaliating." Her face paled, but she nodded reluctantly. "All right, I'll do it. But if he catches on—" "He won't," I assured her, though I couldn't mask the unease in my own voice. "Just be careful. Stick to small talk, gather intel subtly. Don't push too hard." With Chloe tasked with infiltrating Grayson's inner circle, Marcus and I focused on expanding our investigation. Every night after work, we pored over financial records, cross-referencing transactions, and piecing together the intricate puzzle Grayson and Caldwell had created. It was exhausting, relentless work, but each breakthrough fueled us to keep going. Slowly but surely, the picture became clearer. Millions funneled offshore. Fake vendors set up to mask the transfers, and layers of bureaucratic red tape designed to deter anyone from digging too deep. One particularly grueling evening, as Marcus and I sat side by side in his dimly lit apartment, he turned to me with a weary smile. "You know, Adrian, this isn't just about revenge anymore, is it?" I paused, my hands hovering over the keyboard. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he gestured to the piles of documents surrounding us. "This is bigger than Grayson screwing you over. This is about holding people accountable, about making sure no one else gets hurt because of their greed." His words struck a chord deep within me. In the beginning, my motives had been personal, purely driven by anger and a desire to settle the score. But somewhere along the way, that changed. Maybe it was the realization that others were suffering under Grayson and Caldwell's schemes. Or maybe it was the weight of knowing that if we failed, nothing would stop them from continuing their crimes unchecked. "You're right," I admitted softly. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about everyone they've stolen from, everyone they've betrayed." Marcus nodded, his expression resolute. Then let's finish this. As the weeks passed, Chloe began feeding us snippets of information gleaned from her interactions with Grayson. At first, they were trivial tidbits, his favorite restaurants, his habit of micromanaging every detail. But gradually, she uncovered something far more valuable, a pattern of paranoia. Grayson was growing increasingly nervous, double-checking his tracks and questioning those around him. It seemed our efforts hadn't gone entirely unnoticed. "He knows something's off," Chloe reported during one of our covert meetings. "He keeps asking questions about discrepancies in the ledgers. He thinks someone's onto him." "Good," I said, unable to suppress a smirk. "Let him sweat. Let him wonder who's watching." But Grayson's paranoia wasn't the only thing Chloe uncovered. She also revealed a crucial detail: a safe hidden in his office, protected by a biometric lock. According to her, Grayson rarely opened it in front of others, but she'd caught glimpses of him entering codes and scanning his fingerprint. Whatever was inside that safe, it was important and potentially explosive. "We need to get into that safe," I declared during our next strategy session. "If we can crack it, we might find the smoking gun we've been looking for." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Easier said than done. Biometric locks aren't exactly easy to bypass." "We don't have to bypass it," I countered, a plan forming in my mind. "We just need access to Grayson himself. One night, when he's distracted or vulnerable, we sneak in and borrow his hand." Chloe blinked. "You want to kidnap him?" "No," I exclaimed, rolling my eyes. "I'm talking about creating a distraction. Something big enough to draw his attention away from his office long enough for us to get what we need." The three of us spent hours brainstorming ideas, weighing risks, and refining the plan. By the time we parted ways, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was it, the final piece of the puzzle. Once we had the contents of that safe, there'd be no turning back. The day of the operation arrived sooner than expected. Chloe texted me early in the morning, her message brief but urgent. "Grayson's leaving the office tonight for a private dinner with Caldwell." Perfect opportunity. My heart raced as I forwarded the message to Marcus. Tonight was the night. All the sleepless nights, the endless research, the constant fear, it all came down to this. By late afternoon, we were in position. Chloe stayed behind to monitor Grayson's movements, while Marcus and I prepared to infiltrate his office. Dressed in black and armed with tools borrowed from Marcus's locksmith hobby, we slipped into the building through a service entrance. The halls were eerily quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights our only companion as we made our way to Grayson's floor. Reaching his office, we encountered the first obstacle. The door was locked. Fortunately, Marcus worked quickly, his steady hands coaxing the tumblers into place within minutes. Inside, the room was immaculate, every surface polished to perfection. My gaze immediately fell on the safe embedded in the wall behind his desk. "It's now or never," I whispered, pulling out a small device Marcus had rigged earlier. It was a portable fingerprint scanner connected to a laptop, designed to mimic Grayson's biometrics using data Chloe had secretly collected over the past week. As Marcus set up the equipment, I kept watch, my ears straining for any sign of movement outside. Minutes ticked by agonizingly slowly, each second stretching into eternity. Finally, Marcus gave a satisfied nod. "Got it." The safe clicked open, revealing a stack of files and a single USB drive. My hands trembled as I grabbed the drive and flipped through the documents. They contained everything we needed: detailed records of the fraudulent transactions, correspondence between Grayson and Caldwell, and even incriminating emails implicating other executives. "We've got him," I breathed, clutching the evidence to my chest. But as we turned to leave, a sudden noise froze us in our tracks. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, growing louder with each passing second. Someone was coming. Panic surged through me as the footsteps grew louder. Without hesitation, Marcus grabbed the files and USB drive, shoving them into his bag. "Quick, hide," he hissed. We ducked behind Grayson's desk just as the door swung open. Heart pounding, I peered through the gap between the desk and the wall. To my horror, it wasn't just any employee, it was Grayson himself. He strode in, muttering angrily under his breath, clearly agitated about something. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't notice the faint disturbance we'd left behind. But then, as if sensing our presence, he paused, scanning the room with narrowed eyes. For a moment, time seemed to stop. My mind raced, calculating escape routes, but there was nowhere to go. And then Chloe appeared in the doorway. "Grayson," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "There's a situation downstairs. The IT team says your server access has been compromised." Grayson cursed under his breath and turned on his heel, storming out without another glance back. Chloe lingered for a fraction of a second, giving us a subtle nod before following him. As soon as they were gone, Marcus and I bolted from the office, moving faster than ever before. We slipped out of the building unnoticed, the evidence safely tucked away. Back at Marcus's apartment, we uploaded everything onto an encrypted drive and sent copies to trusted journalists, regulatory bodies, and Sterling's board of directors. By morning, the story broke wide open. Headlines screamed of embezzlement, corruption, and betrayal at the highest levels of Sterling and Company. Grayson and Caldwell were arrested within hours, their smug facades crumbling under the weight of undeniable proof. The company plunged into chaos, but amidst the wreckage, whispers of reform began to surface. As for me, I walked away from Sterling, leaving behind the toxic environment that had nearly consumed me. With the support of Marcus and even Chloe, who found redemption in helping take down the monsters, I started fresh, channeling my skills into consulting for ethical businesses. Looking back, I realized revenge hadn't been the ultimate goal, justice had. And in exposing the truth, I'd reclaimed not only my dignity but also my faith in doing what's right, even when it's hard. Sometimes karma needs a little help. And sometimes standing up to those who underestimate you is the most satisfying revenge of all.